is a housing crisis that is being felt in every part of the country. We face intertwined problems of endemic homelessness, spiralling rent, insufficient social housing and a stagnant private market. For an entire generation, the basic aspiration of home ownership is slipping away. The dream of having a place to call your own, to build a vibrant family life around, and to play an active role in the local community is disappearing. Instead of putting roots down, young people are paying up to landlords. We need to give ordinary workers, getting going in their lives, newly married or starting a family, a real chance at owning their own home. However, the first-time buyers grant scheme, as announced, is not the solution that they need. Minister Cowen himself has conceded that the first-time buyers grant scheme is not a silver bullet. But let me tell you, it is he who is firing the starting gun on a new property price race. Overall, the 20,000 grant will see more money chasing the same few homes. Builders will simply boost prices to get higher profits that they need or that their banks demand. The cost of building a new home will remain, I'm afraid, fundamentally unaddressed. A young couple will find themselves using the grant just to try and outbid other couples, armed with the same amount, looking at the same home. And this will have wider implications too, beyond just first-time buyers. Homeowners looking to trade up are the Cinderella of the property market. These families who have outgrown their old home or who have just escaped from negative equity will also be hit by artificially spiked prices. Trader-ups have been entirely neglected in the central bank rules, and now they will have to compete with first-time buyers armed with an additional €20,000 to outbid them. This scheme, this Help to Buy scheme, or as we said earlier rather, the Help to Sell scheme, is a demand-side solution to a supply-side problem. And the extremes of the scheme are the sharp end of Fine Gael's two-tiered outlook of this country. The 600,000 limit imposed is completely off the wall. It is out of sync with the reality of ordinary first-time buyers. The average overall cost of providing a three-bed semi-detached house of 1,214 square feet in the Greater Dublin area is €330,493, including VAT. The 600,000 limit is almost double that, and that effectively turns this scheme into nothing more than a mansion grant. For a new home worth 600,000, it would require a €98,000 deposit and an income of at least €145,000. This is four times the average industrial wage. A couple earning this level, starting out in life, I can tell you they don't need 20,000 from this state, a state that is struggling to tackle a social housing waiting list of 130,000 numbers. It means ordinary taxpayers are directly subsidising people earning four times the average wage to buy a home worth three times the national average price of a three-bed semi-detached house. I do not agree with this scheme. I expressed my concerns about the potential of this scheme to the Minister some weeks ago. I asked that he carry out an impact assessment. We're told this morning by Minister Bruton that that was carried out. Well, if it was carried out, and I doubt it very much to be quite honest, it's serious implications for him and his cabinet, but I think it needs to be published straight away. I would beg members of government to look at this scheme and see the blatant unfairness of it at its extremes. The extremes I mean by raising and not capping the grant for houses at 400,000, rather allowing it going to 400,000 to 600,000. Those people who can afford those homes, they're not the squeezed middle. They're not an ordinary young couple just married or looking to buy a semi-detached house and start a family. They're not young guards They're not young nurses, they're not young teachers, they're not young professionals who have studied hard and worked hard and their parents paid a lot in order to put them through college. What you are financing here, what you are giving to those who can afford homes at that rate, is a mansion grant. If they were considering buying a house 3 weeks ago at $580,000, they don't need an extra $20,000 now to pay $600,000 for it. This will undoubtedly turn a two-tier recovery into a two-tier property market. Those first-time buyers a few years into their careers, struggling to save, struggling to pay rent, will not be served by further spiking of prices on homes that will never now ever be within their reach. And I want to make it clear, Fianna Fáil believes in home ownership. We believe it is good for families and good for communities. Having something to pass on to future generations and a firm sense of place is a basic and fundamental human desire. This means the state should provide the framework and the stable market where it can to enable people to buy their own homes in keeping with their own needs. But we cannot allow that dream transform into a nightmare cycle of highs and lows and booms and busts. In our manifesto, we put forward a clear proposal to help first-time buyers save for their deposit. It was a gradual scheme over a number of years that would ensure that prices were not rapidly expanded, while helping ordinary couples to get the money together to buy their first homes. In contrast, the government, of course, has gone for the big bang approach. It's an electoral Trojan horse that is using young couples' legitimate aspirations against them very selves. The key issue that needs to be addressed, that should be addressed and has to be addressed, is supply. We need 25,000 new units per annum only to meet our demographic demand. We need to address the cost of constructions rather than turbocharging house prices. The VAT rate, the finance costs, the development levies, the certification costs can all be brought down with direct state intervention, but you have not chosen to take that route. I and my colleagues are committed to seeking to play a constructive role, and in doing that we will be putting forward amendments to the finance bill when it is brought forward. And I hope the Minister and those within government is willing to engage in meaningful discussion about how we can, at the very least, if the scheme has to go ahead, to improve it and to make it more real. If we do not learn from the past, we are condemned to repeat it. Let's not go back to the future with these proposals. We can do better. And an entire generation of people currently renting, currently scrimping and saving every square few bob that they have, they deserve better. And they won't be served by this scheme. As I said earlier, I had asked the Minister some weeks ago. I had mentioned to him my concerns about the proposals that were being talked about in the media in relation to this scheme. I said, at the very least, what you need to do is an impact assessment analysis and to make it public. If that has been done, we need to see it soon. We need to see it fast. Because I have my doubts, to be quite honest, because every dog on the street will tell you the impact this is going to have. It's going to increase prices while you don't address the supply issue. I also mentioned that he refused to consider a proposal put forward by the Housing Finance Agency in relation to the state taking equity in homes, which in the event of an upturn would allow the state a benefit, and in the event of a downturn, God help us, at least there was a safety net for those that were involved in the purchase of the home. That would have been seen to have been a realisation and an acknowledgement of what has happened in the past and learning from the past. But as I said, what we have is the big bang approach. What we have is the effort at populist politics. What we have is an effort to appease the South Dublin Fine Gael voters. Make no mistake about it, the 400,000 cap needs to be set in this city where the crisis is greatest. And you also have it in Louth, in Meath, in Kildare, in Wicklow and adjoining counties. Don't allow this to happen. I'm pleading with you. This is sleepwalking into another crisis. This is sleepwalking into another price war. If the limit is set at 400,000, then prices are fixed. Then land prices are fixed. And if people want to continue hoarding land thereafter, you can levy them. But at least they'll have to cut their cloth to measure the building sector and provide homes that can meet that demand. And there are people struggling as it is to buy homes at 360,000, 380,000. That won't be the case after this comes into force.
Thank you.
I'd ask you to reconsider. As I said, we'll be putting forward amendments. We expect you to take them seriously. We expect you to acknowledge what you're doing here can't be allowed to happen.
Thank you, Deputy Cowen.